let's get started.
Money. Good. Can you like intro Pink Floyd for us on this one?
Right.
Grace Chisholm?
How long have you been part of the church?
No, I thought you were going to say your name after I say my name.
Grab that cash with both hands and make a stash.
Grace Chisholm.
Cory Haller.
We've been a part of the church for 2 years.
For about a year and a half, I think.
Okay. Right, because we've been in Portland for 2 years, so a year and a half. We chose UPUMC right at the time that it was joining with St. John's because it was a group of people that were acting on what their beliefs were. They were putting their beliefs into action. They were standing behind what they believed.
Mm-hmm.
We thought we could be a part of that. I keep thinking I love the diversity. It's not as diverse as the church could be, like the capital C church, but as far as churches go, it's really diverse, and I grow from every interaction I have with all these different people. I love that.
I just like how active the community is. Everyone has things they care a lot about, and they're not just talking about it, they're doing things. Like both, on Sunday morning, on Tuesday afternoon, whenever it is. I mean, it's like it's kind of part of the fabric of the church. And I think a lot of people, gravitate towards each other who have that kind of mentality, so it's cool. I really like that. And it inspires me to be a little more active than, it's sometimes possible with an 8-month-old. Or seems possible, I should say. Can I give the answer that I think you're going to give, and then you can give the answer?
Yes.
I think I don't say it's all Grace, it's a lot of Grace. Grace at large and Grace, my wife. She has a background of relying on others' tithes, essentially. I mean, Grace was a missionary for 5 years in South Africa, and I think she understands the importance of being present in any way you can in other people's lives and helping support missions in other ways. And I think that perspective informs her approach to tithing a lot.
And it's scary when you start supporting a new missionary or a new church, because I have the sense that you can't ever stop. Like you're saying, I'm going to be a part of this thing, this movement, and you can stop. You certainly can. And when we left our last church, we stopped. But I don't know. It's like when you put your money behind something, you believe in it and you want it to succeed. And if you want something to succeed, you can't stop participating. And if God's called you to participate through financial giving, you can't stop if you have the means to give. I mean, we've both been through periods of unemployment where we had to pull back on like some of our giving. But
I mean, to your point, that it's like when you become part of someone else's budget, it's, if all of a sudden there's a hole in the budget, it matters. We get that on a personal level in the way, our life. Like if all of a sudden, like my employer decided to stop paying me one out of every 4 weeks, like it would make a difference, and it's like, we budget and depend on this. I mean, in some ways we're, helping the church with its budget, and it matters, I think, on a week-to-week basis. And it's just hard to for your money to make the difference, as much of a difference as it can, if it's not dependable. I think it's better to give less and be dependable about it than it is to, give once every 6 months, and like, here's this random check. And it's like, that's great, but now, is it going to come again? What are we going to do with that? We can't, are we going to have, this is going to fund this project every week. We know it's coming, it's dependable, steady. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
when I think of community, I think of church. And I also think of our neighborhood and our neighbors. But to me, the first thing I think of is church. And I can't survive without community. I really can't. I mean, having Mabel and being surrounded by so many people, both our neighbors and our church, was just a reminder. Like, I really cannot do this on my own, no matter how wealthy I am. So I feel this deep sense that I need my community. I better treat them well if I want them to be a strong community or that can support me.
So one thing that you guys touched on today that has been a source of strife for us, but I think we've really turned it into a positive collectively, is why you give. Not just the reaction, the transaction reaction, but more the do I give because because if I don't, I'm a bad person, or I feel guilty that I have and others don't, or am I giving from a place that's like I want to share with other people, and this is like an affirmative statement of who I am as a person and my faith, and it allows me to kind of support those causes and be a cheerful giver, so to speak, as opposed to a fearful or a guilty giver. And Grace and I won't give up who's who, but we definitely had different approaches to that. And I think we've both coalesced around the, not giving from a place of guilt, but giving from a place of like affirmative statement. Like, this is something I want to do. I'm not giving because, yeah.
Well, I'll be candid. I'm much more materialistic than Cory is.
Okay.
And I see it and it bothers me. And it's one of the things I really love about him. It keeps me in check. When you're around people that don't struggle the way you do, it keeps you in check. So for me, one benefit of giving is that it also helps me, it reminds me of my priorities. It's, I don't know how to say this other than it's a gift for me to be able to give. It's like somehow I'm reminded of what's important. I don't know, I'm blessed. I'm blessed by giving and I need it. Like, otherwise, if I just start keeping everything I have, all I want is more, so it kind of slows down what for me is a very natural tendency. I don't know that that's true for Cory, but or maybe it's true in a different way.
Well, I think you're right, though. I mean, I think it's choosing to give is choosing not to do something else, right? It's an affirmative decision that I value the church, I value my relationships with these people, this community, with God, with whomever it is, enough that, instead of doing whatever it is, if it's, it's paying off student loans a little bit more, or saving money, or buying a new car, or whatever, like, no, I value this enough that I'm going to continue to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it is. I think it's giving from a place of a want to as opposed to have to.
I feel like I should also mention that my dad's a pastor. So my whole life I've grown up and he's always tithed from his income. And so I also have that sense of like, wow, if the pastors are giving from their income, surely everyone else should be able to. So it is part of my family culture.
Well, I remember my mom, bless her, I got a $5 allowance when I was a kid. And every Sunday she would give me 50 cents to put in the offering plate. She did it, for me. And, it took me, I think I was into my 20s before I kind of reflected on that and realized what was going on. I was like, oh, I've been tithing since I was 3 years old.
I'm really grateful for the way that tithing, and when I say tithing, I mean it in the global sense and just in terms of, trying to give a percentage of what you get. I'm so grateful for the way that it's blessed me and also blessed us as a couple. And I don't envy people that, Cory and I mean, when you think of, when I compare our relationship to other people, even though we do argue more about money than anything else, we share the same passion and we share the same convictions. And I'm so grateful for that. And I really don't envy people who are in a partnership with someone who's got very different priorities. Mm-hmm. So I feel so lucky, And I know too that if Cory and I as a family are doing very well, I know where our priorities are. And if we're really struggling, I still know where our priorities are. And I feel like not a lot changes, Maybe that whether you're eating ground beef or steak changes, or nothing at all. Like that might change. But in terms of how we identify ourselves as part of the community and how we see generosity, it's the same no matter what. I don't think I will ever stop struggling to understand why I have so much. So and I don't know how to deal with that, and I don't know what the source of it is. It just doesn't seem fair. Yeah, I don't get that. But I do believe, I guess that's the point. I don't feel like I merit the things I have. I earn them. I deserve them. I don't feel like I deserve them. I feel like it's all God's grace. And if it's all God's, then surely I can give some of it back. So I think that helps me not feel quite so bad about all the people that aren't as lucky as I am. But I don't know. This is a whole nother topic. But then sometimes I wonder, like, is that 10% a little safety net? You know, where I'm like, oh, I'm giving some back. Don't you worry. I'm nice and generous and doing the Christian things. So we're good. Let me volunteer some of my time and do a job I believe in and have a family. They're all good things that I covered. You know,
You got that, right? You totally got that.
checked all the
Yeah.
boxes. We're good to go. So I mean, that's something for me to struggle with, or a challenge for me to be blessed with.
Well, like it's you give your time, talent, and your treasure.
Yeah.
It's not your time, your talent, or your treasure. And that's the essence of it. I mean, it's not just to your point, like give my 10%. Okay, I'm good. Like
That's true.
I mean, there's God asks a lot of us,
Yeah.
and we can't focus on one to the exclusion of the others. I don't think.
Well, and I keep thinking about what you said this morning about identity, and if my identity isn't wrapped up in a job, an income, a car, and physical things, I'm going to be okay. It's the whole where your treasure is, your heart's going to be there.
Yeah.
So this is one monthly way for me to make sure my heart and my treasure are lined up. Well, I'm just going to make a plug for my clients. I work with immigrants, and in my experience, immigrants are such hardworking people. They are so generous, but I also see a lot of people with very modest incomes that are so happy. They're just so content. So I have this constant kind of daily influx of that reminder of, it's what you have is not what makes you happy, and it's not what defines you.